the last letter is the church at Laodicea. This week, good news. Next week, not good news. But I wish we could end on good news, but I guess there's always the opportunity of repentance found in the Scriptures. So it is good news that we have to offer. But this morning, real good news about a church. The letter that Jesus shared with the church at Philadelphia was a letter of encouragement. And, we all thrive on encouragement. And as I thought about encouragement, I thought about, last year when the church honored me and my buddy Robert Nanny, whose birthday was this week, Mike. You remember? He's 67 now. He's quite a bit older than I am. As is Mike Wilson, quite a bit older. But did you say 12 days? Yeah, well, still. Mike is a whole lot older. He got on Social Security a long time before we did. And they backdated it, too, that guy did come in. And, but anyhow, they recognized me for 40 years playing the piano here. It seems like yesterday. And I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. And that's even the better kind of encouragement, some that you receive that you weren't expecting. And the big treat for me was that the church gave me a special gift. Robert talked our friend Mary McDonald into arranging the church commissioned her to arrange the song Until Then for a great choral arrangement of that song, which just blew me away. But in addition to that, Robert had sent out a call to people to write letters of encouragement or letters of appreciation letters. And there was a box out front, and those were delivered to me, and I actually received some in the mail. And I was just thrilled with that. I was encouraged by it, exhilarated, recharged, and renewed as a musician and church member. So we thrive on encouragement. Our spirits are lifted by simple words and statements. The writer of our book said that he worked in a church where the preacher every Monday wrote letters of encouragement. And he never could understand why he would take the time. He thought wasted time to do that, but he has learned later that was a good thing that we should all do. And so supporting words motivate us to action and to more good works. And here, a special treat for a church, a letter of encouragement from Jesus. That would even be better, to get a letter of encouragement, think about that, from Jesus. And this is the second church we've looked at that Jesus only had words of praise for the church. That these are words of praise from Christ, the inspector of the church. They got a clean bill of health on his audit. But let's look at Revelation 3, 7 through 8 to start with. And I'm reading from the Christian Standard Bible. If your translation is not exactly like it, it's pretty close to the King James. Write to the angel of the church in Philadelphia. Thus says the Holy One, the true one, the one who has the key of David, who opens and no one will close, and who closes and no one opens. I know your works. Look, I have placed before you an open door that no one can close because you have but little power. Yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Wonderful words from Jesus. Again, as in the other 5 that we've looked at, the letter is written to the angel at the church there. And we've talked about that every week, that is the messenger or the pastor probably. And that's who it's intended for. We talked about that, I know one time, saying that probably most people in that day and age were illiterate, and that perhaps the preacher was one who could read. And so the letters coming to him would have been read aloud, probably at the church, where everybody could hear them. and they didn't have photocopy machines, to make copies. Somebody had to write it out if they made a copy. But all could hear the words. And I think that's also interesting because each one of these letters ends with, if you have ears to hear, hear. It doesn't say if you have eyes to read, read. Ears to hear. And I think that's also indicative of the fact that these were read out loud and people heard them. And they were to react about what they heard. And again, Jesus, who we are certain wrote these letters, or had John, he dictated them to John to write and to send, doesn't identify himself by name. He describes himself here as the Holy One, the True One, in capital letters. The Holy One, the Holy One is the True One. And that has always been a description of God, the Holy One, the True One. In a monotheistic theology, there's only one God. And Jesus identifies himself here as that one, and the only one, and the true one. And then he describes himself as the one who holds the key of David. I think that if you want to go back even to the Gospels and to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus shares with us his lineage that goes all the way back in time and shows himself to be in the line of David, the great king of Israel. And that one who holds the key of David would be also the Messiah. And Jesus identifies himself in that lineage and in that line, and the one who holds that key. And so he further describes himself as, and that key as the one that opens, and that no one else can open, that doesn't have a key, and he's the key holder. And also the one who closes and locks, and nobody else can unlock. So he has that key as the key holder. I remember one time I'm on the fire department, and we had a fire call. The alarm had gone off out at the Ringier or Hall Printing, and it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we couldn't get a hold of anybody that had the key. And so we were walking around that building, which is enormous. That building is enormous. And so we had walked all the way up to the front door, and then all the way down east, and then up north to that corner, and we were walking down the railroad track at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and realizing how big this building was and how many doors there were, all of which were locked. And nobody was saying anything. Everybody was a little winded. We had our fire uniforms on, big bulky uniforms, and Paul Hutcherson was one of them, Dickie Hart, I don't know who else, Corey Green, I'm sure, and 2 or 3 others. And I said, wait a second, I think I've got the key. And they said, you've got the key? I said, yeah. How'd you get the key? I said, I don't know. I said, the Mayor Forster, when I was Citizen of the Year, gave me a key to the city. I guess I got a key to this thing. It's a great big old key. I'll have to go back to the house and get it. But I mean, I guess it opens everything. And they just, there might have been some cursing there, but I'm not going to repeat what they said. I thought it needed some levity there, but they didn't. And but Jesus exclusively controls those who will enter his kingdom. Nobody else has the key to that gate and that door. I went by the old Wren House place over here, and they put in a little gate there, in the driveway. And I guess the thing opens probably by remote control, probably. And they will control that gate. But only Jesus controls the other gate to the kingdom of God, to heaven, and who enters that kingdom. So Jesus, once again, though, as he continues, beyond his description of himself, connects himself to the church. I remember, as I think about my father, and about what he did. And I copy this some because I noticed how neat it was and what an opening it was and the connection that it caused. My dad was the assistant principal at the school, and he would stand at the front door and as kids came in to the school in the morning, or as they were coming maybe across the street from the high school over to eat lunch, you know. But my dad would stand there, and I would notice as certain kids came in, they would look at him out of the corner of their eye and have just a little grin on their face. They were waiting on something. They were waiting on something. And then he would say whatever it was that he said to them every time he saw them. Hey, Cotton Top. And they'd laugh and say, quit calling me Cotton Top. But they wanted him to call him Cotton Top. They wanted him to recognize them in a special way, you see, to get a connection with him so that others knew they had a connection to him. He knew them. He knew them in a special way. Jesus connected to every one of these churches. And he said, didn't he? He said, I've been watching you. I know you. I see you. I have been with you. I'm connected to you. I'm not just saying these things on hearsay. I'm not saying it because somebody has told me about you. I've been there. It's what he's saying to them, isn't it? I know your works. I know you. That gives them a connection to him that breaks the ice, immediately breaks the ice. And so he has been there. He has examined their church. He has inspected them. You know, he's done an audit of their spiritual condition. And he finds things to be in order. Every week at our drug court, I get a list of every person that is a participant of the drug court, and it's a graph or a big kind of a spreadsheet looking thing, and I'm looking for certain things so that when the person steps up in front of me in the courtroom, I can talk to them about them and about how they have stood up this week in their sobriety and and the other things that are the terms and conditions of their probation and their work in that program. But one of the words I'm looking for every time is over here to the right. I'm looking for certain colors. A person who's never been in trouble in it, that's sanction free, is in green. I look for green, you know. Green is good, you know, and it's gold. But red is real bad in that program. If it's red on that thing and I see red, I got a problem with that person. The red shirt, the people who have red shirts, you know, they're problems. But anyhow, you know, the word I'm looking for on that sheet is compliant. They're in compliance with the program. Compliance is good. That means they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. What Jesus finds in his audit of this church is compliance. They're doing everything that he wants them to do. And so he says, I place before you a reward of that, an open door. I place before you an open door. Now, why is an open door to Jesus important? And why would they be looking for an open door? One of the problems in every one of these cities was that the Jewish people in those cities, and most of the early Christians in the early churches were Jewish, a lot of them. And so they were looking for acceptance amongst the Jews, particularly because they knew, the Christians, that they had found the Messiah. Messiah had arrived, and they were looking for their friends and other Jewish people in that community to see it and accept him as well. But what they found was rejection. And what they found was a closed door to them, to the synagogue. They were expelled and ostracized by the Jewish community, and in Philadelphia for sure. And they were not allowed to worship in the synagogue with other Jewish people, and were not granted access. And Jesus shares with them to quit worrying about that, because they now have ultimate access to God. They have an open door to God that the Jews do not have now in that city. It was apparently a very small church, and would have appeared to the community, to the Jewish community, to the Gentile community, to be insignificant. It was so small. It was insignificant. And so he even recognizes that. I have placed before you an open door that no one can close, because you have but little power. You have but little power. And so he recognizes that the world sees them as a place of no influence. But he's sharing with them that they have access to all power through an open door to him. All access, open door to God that nobody else will have, and that having an open door to the Creator God is all power, and so though small, he noticed them and he rewarded them. The two things that he says about them that he saw that are so incredible is that he says, even though you're small and with little power, you have kept my word. You've kept my word. They had been faithful to that which was holy. They had been faithful to that which was true. They had not compromised in any way with the world, with the pagan world and society that was round about them, nor had they even compromised with the Jewish community. They had been true to him. They had accepted him as the Messiah, and they believed in him as the Son of God, and they had been true to that without compromise. And the second thing, besides keeping his word, is that they had not denied his name. Important. They didn't share his name with any other pagan gods, with any other gods, little g gods. His name was the name that they revered and worshiped. Only his name did they worship. And they stayed true to his name. They believed in his messiahship, and that he was the Christ, the chosen one, and they had been true to his name. And they refused to worship in any other way. They refused to worship pagan gods. They refused to worship the emperor of Rome. This again is in Asia Minor and was under the control of the Roman government at that time, that demanded a worship of the emperor, the Caesar. They remained true to God, which is fantastic here. I noticed something this week in Bible study. I'm reading in the book of Ezekiel, which is an interesting and unusual book, a difficult book, as difficult as Revelation to understand in the vaguer parts of it. But in one of the prophecies that God wanted Ezekiel to share with the Hebrew people, he was in captivity as he shared these messages. And I don't think about these things sometimes, but his contemporaries in captivity would have been Daniel, and would have been Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and those type people. And I can't remember now the other two, but let's just say I'm not going to be perfect on this, I don't think. But he said, I want you to say this. I would do this to this country even if these three men were part of it. Noah, I think, was one of them, and maybe Abraham. I'm not sure. Oh, Job and Daniel. He says, I don't care if in the group was Noah and Job and Daniel. I'd still do this against this country. He put these three men up there on a pedestal and honored them and revered them. God did for their testimony and their faith. And he said, even if they were in the country, I would still punish the nation, you know. And he said it 3 or 4 times in that passage. I just thought that was amazing. And the most amazing part of it was Daniel was in it. And that a contemporary of all of them that he was talking about was there, and he honored him because of his faith. And you know, I just think it's an incredible thing that within this city are a large group of Jewish people who didn't recognize that Jesus was the Messiah. And he honors Philadelphia and the church at Philadelphia for standing up as a remnant of people against that larger group of people who denied him. Okay? And this is where we find verses 9 and 10 here. He says, note this. I will make those from the synagogue of Satan who claim to be Jews and are not, but are lying, L-Y-I-N-G. Sometime Wayne Perkins, when he introduces me, says he's a liar. Lawyer, he says. You know, he's done it before. It's like a liar, he says at first. You know, that sounded like I was saying lion, like L-I-O-N when I said that, but they are liars, L-Y-I-N-G. I will make them come and bow down at your feet, and they will know that I have loved you, because you have kept my command to endure. I will also keep you from the hour of testing that is going to come on the whole world to test those who live on the earth. This is quite a comment from Jesus to them. That is encouraging to them. You know that these Christians in these churches were despondent and in despair, receiving persecution and ridicule for their beliefs, and probably much worse persecution, mental abuse, physical abuse, commercial abuse, probably had difficulty getting jobs or earning a living because of their beliefs. And their own people were rejecting them. And you know they were despondent. And these letters, I am sure, came to them at the perfect time to encourage them. And so if they ever looked up to the people that were going to that synagogue and looked up to them as true Jews, Jesus said, no. They are a part of a synagogue of Satan. They don't worship God, they worship the devil. It's what they were being told. And it's very similar, I think, to what he said about the Jewish people in Smyrna. But he called them liars and referred to them as followers of Satan. And they were Jewish people in Philadelphia who had rejected the Messiah. And he says about them, Jesus, a Jewish person, says about the Jewish people in Philadelphia, they aren't Jews. He said they're not Jews. Only the Christians at the Church of Philadelphia who were Jewish were Jews. They had rejected the Messiah. The stark contrast there between the lying synagogue of Satan Jews and the Christian Jews at Philadelphia were that they had kept my command to endure. They had kept my command. They had been faithful to him, to God. They had patiently endured. And I love this. This is, you know, the Bible is so filled with the, exact words that should be used. And I want you to look at this just quickly. Because you have kept my command. Have kept. Past tense, right? You have kept. Jesus says, I will also keep. Is that not incredible? The two uses of the word keep. They had kept. And because they had kept and endured, Jesus says, I will keep you. Because of their faithfulness, I will keep. He offers us a promise of protection. And there's debate about what he's talking about here. Is he talking about the tribulation? Is he talking about the current persecution that they were enduring? Is he talking about the persecution of the church to come? Well, what is he actually describing? I don't think it makes any difference. I think he's talking about protecting them and keeping them, whatever interpretation you want to throw in there and believe, he's saying he's going to keep them. Whether in the days to come or at the end of time or the tribulation, he would protect and he will keep them, is what he says. So let's look at the closing remarks that he had to this church, 11 through 13. I am coming soon, period. Hold on to what you have so that no one takes your crown. The one who conquers, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he will never go out again. I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and my new name. Let anyone who has ears to hear listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. Interesting. It is a warning, I guess, by implication, that persecution and tribulation is not over for them, not over for any of the churches. It's not over in our generation of churches. So it's a warning that we are to endure, even in future generations. We're to endure and we're to hold on. You know, the quartet, we sing a song that says, hold on a little longer. Hold on a little longer. The crazy story about that was we were singing at Adams Chapel one night, and just as we were about to sing that song, we had already sung several songs. It was at a revival, and we were to come up and sing the last song before the evangelist came to the pulpit. And I thought Brother Larry Reagan had come up just to introduce us, but he was making an announcement as well. He introduced us, but then he says, listen, I've noticed, almost like he was at our church, I've noticed that when the preacher's up preaching, a bunch of you get up and go to the bathroom, come back. Go get water, come back. Go outside, smoke a cigarette, come back. While the preacher's preaching. He said, don't do that. Stay in here and listen to this preacher and get that stuff done now or later, but don't be moving around while the preacher's preaching. What are y'all going to sing now? Larry said. I said, hold on a little longer. But, we are to hold on a little longer, aren't we? We're to be like the church at Philadelphia and hold on a little longer. And that ought to be our mantra. It was theirs. And if we hold on, then he offers us a crown of victory. And it's the crown of victory